There are a lot of things that nobody tells you about parenting a child with autism. They tell you about therapy, they tell you about routines, they tell you about sensory needs, communication devices, visual schedules, developmental milestones, and approximately 4,000 acronyms that you are apparently expected to understand immediately. But nobody really tells you what it feels like to live with so many unanswered questions. Like, how much does my son understand? Will he ever talk? Will he ever be independent? Will he always need someone beside him? What happens when he becomes a teenager? What happens when he becomes an adult? And the one question that keeps a lot of parents awake at night: what happens to him when I'm no longer here? Now, there is no handbook for any of that. There's no GPS, no little voice calmly saying, recalculating in 500 feet, turn left toward mental stability. You are just driving through the fog, hoping you are still on the road, and occasionally realizing the road is actually a sidewalk. Welcome to parenting without a map. Hey everybody, welcome back to Family Beyond Labels. This is a channel about family, adoption, autism, parenting, mistakes, love, chaos, and trying to figure out what the hell we are doing before the children realize we are completely unqualified. I'm John. I'm a single dad to two incredible kids. My son is autistic, nonverbal, and needs significant support in his everyday life. And before we get too far into this episode, I want to make something clear. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I am not some autism expert. I am just a dad. A dad who has learned a lot, gotten plenty wrong, and spent an unreasonable amount of time wondering whether a behavior is sensory, medical, developmental, emotional, or just my child deciding to keep things interesting. Today I want to talk about something I think a lot of autism parents quietly carry around. It's all the unknowns. Not just the medical unknowns or the developmental unknowns. It's the emotional unknowns. The questions that may not have answers. And how you keep parenting when you cannot see very far down that road. Now, one of the biggest unknowns with my son is how much he truly understands. Since he is nonverbal, people can sometimes assume he does not understand what is happening around him. But not being able to speak is not the same as having nothing to say. And it is definitely not the same as understanding nothing. I have seen him react to conversations. I have seen him recognize routines. I have seen him watch people closely. I have seen him use his AAC device to communicate dad. I have watched him make connections that remind me there is so much happening inside of him that I may not be able to access. That can be beautiful. It can also be incredibly difficult. Because how do I know when he understands me? How do I know when he is confused? How do I know when he is scared, embarrassed, sad, angry, or hurting? Now, if my daughter falls down, she can cry, point at her knee, or eventually tell me what happened. But with my son, I become a detective. Except instead of a badge and a cool trench coat, I have sweatpants and a search history that would concern a medical professional. Now I'm watching his body language, his appetite, his sleep, his stimming, the sounds he makes. Whether he is pressing his head against me more than usual, whether he is seeking connection or pulling away. Sometimes I figure it out. Other times I am throwing possibilities at the wall and hoping one of them sticks. Is he tired? Is his stomach upset? Is something too loud? Did the routine change? Is a tooth bothering him? Is his clothing uncomfortable? Is Mercury in retrograde? Does someone open a yogurt incorrectly? Everything becomes evident. And the hardest part is knowing that he may be trying his absolute best to tell me something, while I am trying my absolute best to understand him. Now, sometimes our best still does not create an immediate answer, and that hurts. Because as his dad, I want to understand him completely. But loving someone does not automatically make you fluent in every way that they communicate. Sometimes love means slowing down, watching, trying again, and admitting, I don't know what you need yet, buddy, but I'm not going anywhere. Now, this is one of those questions people sometimes ask because they mean well. Do you think he'll ever talk? And the honest answer is, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. He may develop more spoken language. His AAC communication may continue to grow. He may continue to communicate through gestures, expressions, devices, routines, and behaviors. His communication may always look different. The hardest part is learning how to hold hope without turning hope into pressure. Of course, I would love to hear him have a conversation with me. I would love to hear him tell me what he did at school. I would love to hear him complain that his sister is bothering him. Honestly, hearing my children argue with each other would probably bring tears to my eyes for about 5 minutes. And then I would say, absolutely not, both of you knock it off. Because apparently my dream is to one day be annoyed in a completely new way. But I also have to be careful to not treat spoken language as the only version of success. My son already communicates. He communicates when he brings me something. He communicates through his body. He communicates through the way he seeks comfort. When he presses his head against me, through the things he chooses, what he avoids, what he watches, and what he repeats. The goal is not to force him to communicate exactly like everybody else. The goal is to give him as many safe, effective ways to express himself as possible. And still, I would be lying if I said the unknown does not affect me. I wonder what his voice might sound like. I wonder what he thinks about. I wonder whether there are words inside of him that he just cannot get out. I wonder whether he knows how much I want to hear anything he wants to tell me. Even if the first full sentence is, Dad, your cooking is overrated. That would be disrespectful. That would hurt like hell. But it would also be a milestone. So I would probably frame it. Now, when you have a child with significant support needs, people love to ask about the future. What is the long-term plan? Will he live independently? Will he work? Will he drive? Will he always live with you? Will he need full-time care? And those are all very important questions. But they can also be impossible questions. My son is still a child. He is growing. He is learning. He is changing. There are things he may be able to do someday that I cannot currently imagine. There are also things he may always need help doing. Both possibilities can exist at the same time. I can believe in him without pretending every barrier will disappear. I can celebrate progress without demanding that it look like somebody else's version of independence. Now, for some people, independence means living alone, driving a car, working full-time, and handling everything themselves. For my son, independence may mean being able to make more choices, communicate his needs, participate in daily routines, have meaningful relationships, live somewhere safe with people who understand him. Independence is not all or nothing. Support does not erase dignity. Needing help does not make a life less valuable. But as his dad, the future still scares me. Because right now, I can advocate for him. I can attend meetings, I can challenge decisions, ask questions, keep notes, send emails so detailed that somebody on the other end quietly regrets giving me their email address. But someday he will be an adult. He will be bigger, stronger. The system surrounding him will change. The services may change. The expectations may change. And I do not know exactly what that will look like. That uncertainty can make you want to plan every second of the next 50 years, but I cannot predict every future need. All I can do is build the strongest foundation possible. Help him communicate, teach safety, create routines, build a support system, fight for appropriate services, document what works, and make sure the people in his life know him as a person, not just as a diagnosis or a list of behaviors. I may not have a map, but I can still leave trail markers. There is one question many parents of disabled children are terrified to say out loud. Who will take care of my child when I'm gone? That thought will hit you at the strangest times. You could be folding laundry, driving to work, making dinner. You could be recording this video, and that thought will invade your mind like a carnivorous earwig. And then suddenly your brain says, hey, remember that one thing you were deeply afraid of and cannot fully control? Yeah, thank you, brain. Very helpful. Excellent timing. Now, I have had serious health issues. I have had a heart attack. I have had bypass surgery. So the idea that I am not invincible is not theoretical for me. I know I will not always be here. Hopefully that day is a very long time away. Hopefully I get to become an old man who complains about modern technology and tells my children that music stopped being good sometime around 1994. But I cannot guarantee that. No parent can. When your child may always require support, that uncertainty feels heavier. Because I'm not only thinking about losing time with him, I'm thinking about whether he will be safe. Whether someone will understand his communication. Whether they will know what calms him. Will they treat him with patience? Will they recognize when something is wrong? Whether they will love him or simply manage him. And there's a big difference between those two things. I do not have a perfect answer. That is part of the unknown. But I know avoiding the question will not protect him. So I have to think about support networks, family, services, legal planning, financial planning, long-term care, people who genuinely know him, people who see my son, not just autism. That conversation is not easy. But loving your child sometimes means planning for a future you desperately hope you will be around to see. Now, not every unknown is frightening. Some unknowns are full of possibility. I do not know what skill my son may surprise me with next. I do not know how his relationship with his sister will grow. I don't know what new way he will discover to communicate. What interests he may develop. What tiny moment may suddenly reveal something he has understood all along. Autism parenting can make progress feel unpredictable. You can work on something for months and feel like nothing is happening. And then one day something clicks. And it may look small to everybody else. But to you, as the parent, it feels enormous. A new gesture, a new food, new routine, a little more patience, a moment of shared attention, a new word on his device, a new way of asking for help. The world may not throw a parade for these moments, but in your house and in your mind, internally there are fireworks. You are trying to act normal, like, oh yes, very good job. Meanwhile, inside your head, did everybody see that? Somebody called the news. That is the other side of the unknown. The future is not only filled with things that could go wrong, it is also filled with things we have not had the chance to celebrate yet. And I love thinking about those unknowns. Another major unknown is whether I am doing enough. Should I be doing more therapy, more structure, social exposure, sensory activities, communication work, independent skills? Should I push harder? Should I back off? Should I change the routine? Should I protect the routine? One expert says consistency, another says flexibility. One person says reduce sensory input. Another one will say increase exposure. One says follow his lead, another says challenge him. At some point, I expect somebody to prescribe 3 chicken feathers, a full moon, and a weighted blanket. Parenting advice is often presented like there is one correct formula. But children are not formulas. Autistic children are not all the same. What works for one child may do absolutely nothing for another. What works for my son today may not work next month, next week, or even tomorrow. And that creates constant uncertainty. Am I helping him grow? Am I overwhelming him? Am I respecting his limits, or am I respecting his limits, or am I underestimating him? Am I advocating enough? Or am I becoming the dad whose name makes everyone groan when it appears in their inbox? Actually, I already know the answer to that last one. Yes, absolutely. But that is okay. Because my job is not to be convenient. My job is to protect my child. Still, I have to remind myself that there is no version of parenting where I make every correct decision. I'm going to misread situations. I'm going to try things that fail. I will realize later that I should have handled something differently. That does not mean I'm failing him. It means I am human. The goal is not perfection. The goal is paying attention, learning, adjusting, apologizing when necessary, but always continuing to show up. So this is a complicated subject, and I want to choose my words carefully. Sometimes autism parents grieve. That does not mean they are grieving their child. It can mean grieving expectations, the future they picture, the conversations they assumed that they would have, the milestones they thought would happen in a certain order, the ease that they thought that their child might have moving through the world. There can be sadness in realizing your child may face challenges you cannot remove. There can be grief in watching other children do something that may be extremely difficult for yours. And then there can be guilt for feeling that grief because you love your child. You would not trade them. You do not want them to believe that they are a disappointment. So you carry the emotion quietly. But 2 things can be true. You can love your child completely and still feel sad about the obstacles that they face. You can accept your child exactly as they are and still want the world to be so much easier for them. You can celebrate their life without pretending every part of the journey is beautiful. Some parts are beautiful. Some parts are just so exciting. Some parts are exhausting, frightening, isolating. Some parts hurt. Love does not require dishonesty. And acceptance does not mean giving up. It means seeing your child clearly and choosing them fully. Not the imaginary version. Not the version society expects. Them. Seeing them as they are, for who they are. There is so much I do not know about my son's future, but there are some things I know for certain. I know he deserves to be respected. He deserves communication. I know he deserves to feel safe in his own home, his school, and his community. I know that his behaviors are not moral failures. I know a difficult moment does not make him a difficult child. I know he is paying attention, even when it may not look like it. I know his life has value. I know his life has value that is not dependent on productivity, speech, or independence. I know he loves in his own way. I know I love him in every way I know how. I know my daughter understands more about him than people may realize. I know the relationship will continue to develop in ways I cannot predict. And I know that whatever comes next, my son will not face it alone. I may not always know what I am doing, but I will learn. I will ask questions, I will make mistakes, and I will correct them. I will fight when I need to fight, and I will listen when I need to listen. And I will keep showing up. Because that is what a dad does. And sometimes that is what a parenting without a map looks like. You do not know the exact route. You don't know how long the journey will take. You don't know where every turn leads. You just know who is in the car with you. And you keep driving. If you are parenting an autistic child, especially a child with significant support needs, it is okay to admit that the unknown scares you. That does not mean that you have lost hope. It does not mean you do not accept your child. It means you are trying to prepare for a future you cannot fully see. And if you are autistic, I also want to acknowledge something important. Parents do not always get these conversations right. Sometimes the fear about the future can become language that unintentionally makes autistic people feel like burdens. That's not what I want for my son. I never want him to believe that his support needs to make him feel less worthy of love, dignity, or belonging. The challenge is not that he exists. The challenge is making sure the world is prepared to support him. I do not need my son to become less autistic so that my life is easier. I need to keep learning how to be the father that he needs. I need schools, healthcare providers, support systems, and communities to recognize his humanity. And I need to build a future where he is protected without being controlled, supported. And I need to build a future where he is protected without being controlled, supported without being underestimated, and loved without conditions. I may never receive every answer I want, but my son does not need a dad who knows everything. He needs a dad who stays, a dad who tries, a dad who learns, who listens, and who will keep looking for that next trail marker when the map runs out. And that, I can promise him. So, thank you for watching Family Beyond Labels. I would really like to hear from other parents, caregivers, and autistic adults on this one. What is one unknown you have had to learn to live with? And what is something your child, or you, did that completely surprised everyone? Please keep the conversation respectful, because these experiences can look different from one family to another. Like the video if it connected with you, subscribe if you want to continue these conversations, and share it with somebody who may need to hear that they are not failing simply because they do not have all the answers. Like the video if it connected with you, subscribe if you want to continue having these conversations, and share it with somebody who may need to hear that they are not failing simply because they do not have all the answers. None of us were given a map. We are just trying to leave good directions for the people coming behind us. Thanks for being here tonight. I'll see you next time.